as we start off with this Eagles-Steelers matchup, I guess some of the things that, like I always start off with, advantages, disadvantages, and then from there we'll obviously converse storylines, how you think everything kind of plays out. But watching them on tape, man, some of the advantages that I do think we will have, because as we talked about yesterday, breaking them down in terms of what we like and don't like, this is a very complete team. In all three phases, realistically, man, they're a good squad, man, with really good players. They're coached really well. But I still feel like some advantages that we will have in this is our interior pass rush, man. When you talk about their offensive line as a whole, yes, they have some cool names, but they're better situated for the run right now in terms of the run game, run blocking. That's where they really are, varsity constantly. Whereas when you're watching them, though, in passing situations, got to have it, drop back, even some of the quick game stuff, you watch, man, these dudes get beat a lot. These dudes give up pressure. And like I said, it's outside and inside. I just think the interior part of this offensive line, though, is their weak link to me when you're talking about the pass protection. And I just think that that's something that we'll definitely be able to take advantage of when you talk about Larry Ogunjobi and how he's been playing these past couple of weeks. He was also cooking down in Miami. Whoo, child. Talk about Cam Hayward. He was also cooking down in Miami. He made some plays too. Man, it's good to see that. Guys like Montravius Adams. I just think that their ability to get off the ball, their ability to rush, I just think that it will cause some problems for them. And I'm just hoping that that can at least help disrupt some of the timing stuff that they're doing with their passing attack. Because like we said, the misdirection is really, I'm getting it out. But if you can find a way to make him pump and you get a hit on him or anything like that, I mean, all of those things are going to be critical and beneficial for us in this particular matchup.
You have any thoughts on what we should do with the secondary then? Should we be pressing?
So this is my thought process, man. I would love to almost implement a similar approach to what we did in Miami, the 2-man, the Tampa 2 stuff, because it was allowing our linebackers and corners to be aggressive, to not allow a free release.
Still have the
but you're protected over
with
top.
Edmonds and Minka.
Absolutely.
Right.
So when you want to give that man feel, you go 2-man. So now you're getting that man-to-man underneath, but you got 2 guys protecting you high. When you want to give that zone feel, you go Tampa 2 because it gives the illusion of cover 3, but it's a better setup in terms of the eyes, in terms of what the corner's able to do, and almost not tricking the quarterback, but just being able to do a little bit. I'm trying to think, it's like a dual threat element to it, because how you're going to be able to still be aggressive, but for that corner, he can sink off, and anything coming to that flat, he can still jump on that. But the weakness of the Tampa 2, as we talked about, is that little spot between the corner and the safety, right on the sideline, that little honey hole. But we know that's a tough throw.
Jalen Hurts, I haven't really seen him in this Eagles offense make that throw in terms of what I've seen. It's been a lot of slants and stuff over the middle.
So that's why playing them, I'm like, when I don't want to go man because some of the crossing stuff can get a little messy, you go with your 2-man element, because you go Tampa 2 because now I have eyes in terms of your vertical hook players sitting there, very similar to like a cover 3 defense. But difference is I have my middle runner who, hey, if it's a short pass, man, he's there for that to give you a little added protection over the ball. And then if it's trying to have somebody work in the middle of the field, splitting those safeties, he's also there to give you protection there. I kind of like that. And then from there, you just kind of pick and choose when you want to go true traditional cover 1. We did that in Miami as well. It was times where it was literally cover 1. One safety in the middle of the field, and it would either be Mika in the middle in terms of the low hold jumping routes, or they would have Miles Jack or one of the other linebackers kind of roaming the inside and having Mika in the middle of the field. Edmonds would be matched up with Gesicki. So we could do some of that as well. We just don't need to do a ton of it because of the matchups. But whenever you want to say, hey, man, let me dial up a blitz real quick, that's when you would go to some of that cover 1, true cover 1, because the ball got to come out fast. These guys aren't going to have to cover as long. But I wouldn't play a ton of cover 1 if I'm not heating them up or if I'm not organically winning with my front 4, because I think you're going to ask a little bit too much in this matchup with the way that their offense has been clicking, and they actually are intentional in terms of trying to work A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%. I get what you're saying, because even though they're not sitting back, shotgun, 4 wide receivers, throwing 300 yards a game, you still got to respect an A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, because Jalen Hurts is still getting them the ball in a frequent manner, at least.
Absolutely. So that would be the answer to that. But continuing on, though, with some of the stuff that I do think we'll have advantages with also is our run game. But I'm very specific about our run game when we're in our real personnel, that 12 personnel, that 21 that we talked about, that we showed on versus Miami at times, when we were having some success running the ball downhill. Yeah, and just bigger body. We're not trying to be cute. We're actually trying to be a physical running team. Kind of like when we talked with TG yesterday, remember, or Terrence Garvin, he was saying that we still trying to figure out what are we going to be fully committed to. Are we trying to be a physical, we're going to run it, smash down your throat, or are we trying to air it out? And we've seen our offense look very different at times. 50 plus attempts, 40 plus attempts. Then we've seen it where we're trying to run the ball, not really throwing it as much. But I do feel if we are committing to running it and we actually do it with good run personnel groupings, I do feel like that is one of the ways that you can have success against this Eagles defense. And that has shown up on tape now a couple of times with them. Problem is, they score a lot. And even we talked about that Dallas game, it was crazy to see them still trying to run the ball and still being able to work their way back into the game, because most of the time when they get up, it forces you to have to throw it a little bit more. And that's what their defense is built perfectly for. Rushing the passer. They just brought in Robert Quinn to go with what they already have in terms of Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Hassan Reddick, guys that win one-on-ones. And then we talked about their corners. They play man. You know why they playing man? Because they know that ball got to come out right now, and they jumping everything. So the running game really is going to be important in terms of maintaining drives, in terms of just keeping Kenny out of harm's way. I still think you could throw on them, but you don't want to have a ton of passes against this team where we talk about how successful they are and how they just have a really good nose for the football. You know, in terms of them being able to create turnovers and stuff like that. Yeah, you might
be right then, because we could then start doing some of these boots and stuff off that heavy personnel. And that's a good way to defeat how you attack the man coverage.
Yes.
Now, one of the things, though, I'm thinking over these last however many games as to why we haven't been able to get a good run game going, specifically in those formations, is just due to our defense giving up double-digit leads early on. Like the Dolphins game, we're giving up 13 points, like, boom, just like that.
But the thing that's crazy, even in that sense, giving up 13 points, here we felt like, man, we got to go right now. But you look at that Dallas team, man, they were down the same type of situation, and they kept running the ball, and that was how they really got back into it, which was weird.
I guess the difference is Dallas probably had more faith in their defense in that moment than us. But I like how our defense has been performing, so maybe we do have a little bit more faith in saying, all right, even if we give up some early points, defense will get it right. Let's just stick with our plan on offense. Whereas last week, I really do feel like it felt like, all right, we're down 13-0. We got to start putting up points quick. Because Miami is
at that
just
time they were going to run us out. Yeah,
you know, is this going to go back to like the Bills game where the Bills
that's that past trauma, man?
Exactly. But now
they had us. I'm with you.
But now, I was with you, based off how the defense adjusted, hey, maybe they can keep doing this going forward, and we don't have to start getting into the 40 pass attempts with Deke. Although I'm still not opposed to it because I think he can nickel and dime defenses. But playing this team with their cornerbacks and stuff, it might be wiser to stick with Najee, stick with Jalen Moore, and try to get things going just based off how their defense is constructed.
And I think this is one of those ones where you don't want to give them extra possessions either. You know, and the turnover element is heightened in some of these type of matchups where we don't look on paper and we're like, hey, man, I feel like we got the better team here. We feel like we match up extremely well with them at all phases. Like, this personally isn't one of those to me, but how do you win those games? Those little details, ball security, taking the ball away. Talked about Miami. It was like, man, we felt like we matched up decent, but they still had some things that could give us some issues. But it boiled down to kind of how Coach Tomlin said it, and kind of what we've been talking about as well, just those little differences of you catch two, you miss two, or, you know, if it's 1-1, if it's anything different, how that could have ultimately changed the outcome. So once again, this is one of those matches where it's like we can't allow them to have extra possessions. We can't shoot ourselves in the foot, so to speak. And that's the thing where I do feel like we're still going to throw it. Don't get it twisted. And I still think that's going to be the best way for us to move the ball because we know we're not as consistent running the ball. And we're not going to do a ton of 12 and 21, I don't think. But when we are in it, we got to be effective because it will open up that play action. It will open up a lot more stuff for us. Two other things, though, that I think will work in our favor. We're going to be overlooked like a mug. I can tell you that, man. Just in the sense of, man, we know it's the whole cross-town or cross-state element of it, but me and TG, I mean, kind of like what we were joking about yesterday, but it wasn't just nearly a joke all the way because you do feel almost like you can let your guard down, so to speak. You still are preparing. They're still going to take it serious. Don't get it twisted. But in the sense of you almost sigh. Like, we just got out of Dallas. Prime time. That was a big one. This should be an easier one. Shouldn't be as crazy. Shouldn't be as tough. So even though they're still going to be prepared, that part I do think helps us out in a sense because we don't have that opportunity over here. We don't have that mindset over here. Our mindset is what? Man, we got to come out swinging. We got to get ready to fight like son of a guns. Like, man, it's going to be, tooth and nail. We going to scratch, claw. Like,
with TJ coming back too, there is a huge urgency.
Think about like how we feel here in Pittsburgh. They don't have that same type of urgency right now. Not saying that they take it lightly, but that is a difference. And that is something when we talk about Coach Tomlin, how many times have we said, man, we don't feel exactly like going to the Tampa, but it's not far off in terms of, this is almost like an insurmountable task. But we see in those type of moments, that is when you get the best version of Coach Tomlin. That is when you get him getting these guys to be overachievers, to do what a lot of people don't think they can do. And that's just one of those things that I do feel like will benefit us. And then the last thing is this, man. We talk about special teams mattering. Well, you said Steven Sims was practicing, right?
Full. Actually, the new injury report just came out.
That what you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I don't know if you was watching, but on special teams, the Philadelphia Eagles, they was giving up a little yardage on that thing. Kickoff return and in the punt return game. Now, y'all know how we hold it over here. Anytime somebody come on the show, they usually ball out. Steven Sims owes us a ball out game because he didn't get to play last week. I just feel like either way, regardless of who the returner is, in all seriousness, I do think that this is an opportunity, though, because that was also part of the reason why Dallas was able to get back in the game. They had two big field flipping returns. One is a kickoff return and one was in punt. And when you're able to do those things, that's how you steal possessions. Tampa Bay, think about the two returns we had there from Steven Sims, one on kickoff, one on punt. Critical in terms of our success in that game. When you're talking about winning these type of matchups where on paper it looks like, hey man, they're undefeated. We are what we are. Impossible. This is how you do it. So for me, man, I do feel like we will be able to take advantage of that part of it. And we're going to have to, man. And if it's Steven, we need to touch paint. We need touchdown. If it's Steven.
Yeah.
Gonna get off. But if it's Steven, we need touchdown.
Yeah, that's the type of stuff you need in games like this where you're double-digit underdogs, and we've seen it. How many times? We've seen it last year against the Bills. We saw it against the Chargers. Where else have we seen it? I guess. Wait, did something happen in the Bengals game? Am I wrong? I know there was a lot going on with the field goals and the kickers missing.
I can't remember
something?
right now.
I feel like something good happened on special teams for us against the Bengals.
Was it Gunner? Did he have a return?
I can't remember.
I don't remember either.
But also the Bucs.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen the impact of special teams for us.
When it's a close game.
Absolutely.
And sometimes, as simple as Tomlin made it seem, they caught their interceptions. We dropped ours. Sometimes it's like, close game. Oh, we had a really nice punt return. Flip the field. They didn't have anything good going on their special teams. Sometimes it comes down to that.
And there's nothing wrong with that because at the end of the day, that's why you have a whole team. It's 3 phases of football. We neglect it until it matters, right? But for us this year, we are seeing that, hey, man, this is how we're getting out of some of these stadiums. We can directly point to it and say, hey, man, this has helped us out, man. So I do think we need to continue on with that. Yeah, it has hurt us. Yeah.
Him fumbling the one, too. Although we got that one back.
Right.
You get my point.
Yeah, I'm really trying to think what happened in Cincinnati.
I feel like something good happened on special teams.
Was it we didn't block a punt?
Or was it just all the 5 picks that we got? Or was it 4 or 5 picks? Is my memory really that bad these days?
Wait a minute now. Yeah,
blocked extra point. Thank you, Nathan.
That's Woods. What it was. But that's what we were talking about, though.
The Minka blocked extra point right at the end.
That's what we're talking about, though, with the snapper, though.
Yeah.
Was that the only thing?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it was a theme throughout the game because
it was the block first, and then after that, they started missing. But
exactly,
exactly. Okay,
it did. Special teams impact.
It did, man. It did.
So that's the point I was trying to make.
Yeah,
I guess my memory is so bad these days.
Hey, no, man. We ain't gonna talk about nothing like that right now. Boy, I'm all over the place. We just here. But yeah, man. Okay. But yeah, man, the special teams part does matter, man. And this is one of those ones where, I do feel like we're gonna need some of that action a little bit, man. So hopefully his hammy is fully prepared and ready to roll, and we can get after that thing, man. Now, some of the challenges or disadvantages that I think we will have to account for. Their misdirection offense, man. they're going to test our defense's eyes. They're going to test our defense's communication and discipline.
It's literally every play.
Every single play,
It's
man.
so
Every single play, they're going to have some type of cross key action where you're getting a tight end going across the formation. There's some type of bootleg action, RPO action. It's always it's just it looks like this, man, the whole time. So when you're talking about
Canada should maybe take notes.
I mean, we'll see.
That's what our offense should be.
Well, but you also have to talk about the execution.
Oh, they have Hurts and we have Pickett.
Yeah,
That's a difference. Hurts is a better runner than Pickett.
And their offensive line has been more consistent early on, at least not just this year, but the past 2 years. They've been at least had more talent, like a Lane Johnson. We haven't had a Lane Johnson. You know what I mean? They've been able to build around stuff like that. And they've also had other guys that have been in there too, now that I'm thinking about it. But, yeah, our offense will get there one day.
Canada said it.
Yeah, I mean, that is ideal. You look at that off because I think we're more aligned with Philly's offense than we are with San Fran's. I know people say, hey, man, it's very similar in terms of the lateralness of it and stuff, but I don't think we commit to the run in a traditional sense the way that we see San Fran do. I think we like to do more of, like you said, RPO, zone read type concepts, but difference is...
Right, because we got better receivers.
Yeah.
We got receivers like
right.
the Eagles.
Absolutely. We're definitely more in line with them.
Well, all three teams have a good tight end.
Right, but we're more in line, like in terms of how we're constructed, is definitely more like Philly. You're absolutely right. Yeah, but yeah, the misdirection offense, man, I do think, like I said, defensively, that's going to just have its own set of issues. When you're in man-to-man, you're going to have legit eyes. And then on top of that, depending on if you want to lock it versus passing certain things, that dynamic causes other issues, just in the sense of how are you reading this? If you're not on the same page, guys running free, that's not what you want. But they scheme that up a lot because of some of that stuff right there. So that was the first thing, man. In terms of some of the things that I was a little bit concerned about from a disadvantage standpoint. The second is their pass rush. And I felt like that prior to them trading for Robert Quinn. But, yeah, now I do feel concerned about their pass rush just because they are a really proven group. And it's interior and outside pressure. They got a lot of money in that room, too. It's not like those guys are just good by accident or they built that through the draft. Nah, we know what Javon Hargrave was, and that's why he was able to get paid. We know what Fletcher Cox is and what he's meant to the NFL. Hassan Riddick, we've seen the type of player he can be now that he's, fully developed into who he can and what he's capable of. Robert Quinn. I mean, this dude just last year was second in the league in sacks. So
Josh Sweat made a Pro Bowl.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Josh Sweat. Yeah, he's another guy. And he's a first or second round pick.
I can't remember.
But so he's a high pedigree guy as well, though. But yeah, he comes off the bench, and then you got Brandon Graham, who's the old head vet out there.
Just like getting 30 or 40% of snaps. Yeah. Just a steady guy, steady leader
I'm
for
about
your
to
defense.
say, because he went from being a Pro Bowler, part of the Super Bowl team, to now he's kind of like aged out, almost like the Jerry Hughes of Buffalo.
If that's like your fourth or fifth best pass rusher.
It's like that's a heck of a situation, man.
You got something good going on your defense.
So when I think of that mixed with our offensive line, yeah, that definitely has me a little bit concerned because even last week, we did do a good job of protecting Kenny, but when we were getting beat, some of the players, it's just kind of like, I definitely think this guy in Philly is better than that guy right there. So that's the part that's going to make it a little bit unique, but we're going to have to do some certain things, man. Some of the misdirection that Philly does, we do as well, and I do feel that should be able to help us. I think tempo is also going to be something that we should potentially implement as well to kind of help with this offensive line, to help with that pass rush, because you don't want those guys just being able to be fresh and teeing off. And you don't want to fall behind either, where they're going to be obvious passing situations. So the pass rush is real, which is why that running game for us needs to be real.
Oh, yeah. It goes back to what you initially
it goes hand in hand, man. Absolutely.
It keeps them off balance if we're just able to run the ball. You're not able to just tee off on our offensive tackles like that.
Yeah.
Because you got to worry about the run.
Absolutely.
So let's have some success with it.
Absolutely. All right. And then the last thing, man, that I thought could be a disadvantage or very challenging is just our matchup with their defensive backs. We talk about those guys, man. They have high-end talent. They also have good just depth as well, man. And they're a smart group. They're a veteran group. You heard me praising them yesterday. And it's one of those ones where they capitalize on mistakes. They're very opportunistic, but they're very fundamentally sound. And when passes are tipped, a lot of times those players are going to get them. If it's an overthrow, they're going to get it. they hardly ever let footballs, just fall harmlessly to the ground. And that is part of the reason why they're so successful as a team, because they capitalize on a lot of that stuff. Some of the similar stuff that we were talking about on our defense. Hey, man, just catch the ones that are given to you. They do that really well. But like I said, for me, man, just seeing the fact that they can match up man to man, but they are capable of doing some of the zone stuff, but it's more so coupling even the not high end guys with that pass rush. It's almost like grading on a curve for them. So a James Bradbury, who, if he's by himself with no pass rush, you're not really thinking about him to that level. But you throw him out there with this pass rush, it's like, hey, go on, man. Hey, that's not what we think it is anymore.
Yeah, they're playing with confidence.
Absolutely. Avonte Maddox, just like, yo, if he doesn't have this type of crazy rush and those players around him, I'm like, all right, he's a good player, but I don't look at him to that level. When that pass rush is out there with that group, man, he even out there rocking out. And it's like, it's dope to see, because that's what it's supposed to look like when you got rush and coverage working the way that they do. Their rushers feel like they can win every rep. Their corners are like, man, we locking up anybody.
Yeah, it's how our defense should look like, especially when TJ's back. Yeah,
100%, man.
That's exactly what we were talking about heading into this season.
That's what. Come on, man.
We don't have the greatest corners of all time, but they're really talented.
Yep.
And they've had success in the NFL, so I don't see why they can't hold up if we could have a TJ Watt and Highsmith and a Cam Hayward going off on other teams' offensive lines.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the first receiver-cornerback matchup where you're just like, okay, it's kind of like evened out here?
Yeah.
Because every other one, even going back to the Bengals, is like, I think we have the advantage here, especially with Pickens becoming who he is.
Yeah, because my thing is, it's like, I can see them saying, we don't want to worry about Pickens. Slay, you go follow him around. Now it's like, all right, we know Claypool and Deontay. Are they both going to be hot at the same time, or is it one or the other?
We're going to have to pick on Maddox.
Yeah.
Get Claypool in the slot, maybe.
Right. Because that's the thing. I'm just like, that creates just that question of how are they going to match that up? And like I said, they play that man-to-man, so you're not going to get a ton of, let me get Claypool on a linebacker. They're not going to give you a ton of those matchups, whereas with Miami, they were. It was nuts. I was like, all right, keep running this 2-man. We're going, all right, I like this now. Yeah.
It's going to be a fun game.
No, it definitely is, man. It definitely is. Because like we said, it's a good matchup, though, like in the sense of we got action. It's not like one of these situations where, oh, my God, we don't, how do you do this? How do you? It's like, no. We got some, man, we're going to have some smoke for them now. Believe that. But it's going to be the question of, can we do it consistently, and are we fully going to commit to some of this stuff as well?
The thing I like about this matchup versus last one against the Dolphins is Eagles aren't as fast as them.
Correct.
And I think that's something that hurt us early on in that Dolphins game.
Oh, man, you adjusting to it. Heck yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the Eagles, they run everything fine. Like, they actually run everything really good. They don't make the mistakes.
Right.
It's, you know what I was thinking? I don't know if I said this yesterday, but they're all in. You know how you talked about with our offense, we're questioning the receivers blocking. Even on some screen passes dating back to last year, we'd throw a dump off to a receiver. And it was like, this is designed for the receivers to block and us to gain of 5 or 6 yards. The Eagles do that in every facet.
Yes.
You could see
they're all committed.
Everyone in that offense, all the players, they're committed to the play calling, and you see it play out because they're not making mistakes, and it's running like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah. It's more so less about the individual, more about the greater good. Yeah. And it takes time, though, for that. And we are in a different phase right now. That phase that they're in, we had that phase. We've been through that phase here where it was like, yo, we can buy in. It's a lot easier to buy in when you're 6-0, right? When you have been winning. For us, it's like, man, we're figuring that thing out. We still got some young players on this team, and it hasn't been success right out the gate. So you do kind of go through that a little bit with a young squad until you start to trust each other to that level. You start to trust his coach staff to that level. But they'll get there in due time. But that is a part of when you talk about the progression of where they're at versus where we're at right now. That's the difference when you're looking at it, man.
It's just like, I think the Eagles are playing really well. They have talent. I don't think they're this unbeatable team, though.
But they're consistent as heck. They play
they've
with
had
an
hiccups.
edge.
Teams have got them.
Absolutely.
The Eagles' offense kind of just went dead in the second half of that Cowboys game. But they have found the ways to win. Yeah. And that's the other thing you got to give credit for. They've kept that confidence even whenever there is some bumpy roads within these games. Yeah. And that's a huge asset, man, when you have that type of belief as a team. You said, man, we've felt that here. We know what that felt like, man, in terms of just
yo, it doesn't matter what the score is, we got action. It doesn't matter how much time is left, we got action. Like, that's a great feeling to have. And that's when you watch them on tape, man, that is definitely what they have right now, man.